Chloe confused. Chloe was very cross. Charlie, who sat next to her at school, teased her daily. He would say she couldn't say her name properly. Your name begins with CH. Why do you sound it with the K sound like in cat? He would say. You should sound it with the ch sound like in chair. Chloe was very cross. Her teacher, Mrs. Jane, had taught the class that C and H made a ch sound like the one in chalk. Chloe did not want to argue, but she knew it would sound silly to say her name that way. She tried saying Chloe with the ch sound as in chat. How stupid it sounds, she said to herself. Chloe was cross with Mrs. Jane for telling the children that C and H made a ch sound like the one in cheese. She was cross with Charlie for teasing her about her name. She was cross with her parents for giving her a name that began with CH, but did not sound like the ch in chocolate. Chloe had a cross look on her face when she reached home after school. What has happened? Asked Mrs. Sherrill, her mother. Chloe told her mother why she was so angry. Right, said her mother. We shall go for a walk and talk about it. And after tea, her mother held Chloe's hand gently and walked out of the house. Where are we going? Asked Chloe. We are going for a reading walk, answered her mother. Chloe wondered what her mother meant by a reading walk. Look there, said Mrs. Sherrill. We shall stop here for a minute. They were standing in front of a church. Chloe, what do you call this building? Asked Mrs. Sherrill. Why, it's a church, replied Chloe. And what sound does church begin with? With ch, like in child. Now look at that board, said Mrs. Sherrill. She pointed to a big red board in the churchyard. On it there were written times of church services and also the name of the chaplain. At the bottom were the words, choir practice every Friday 6 p.m. Chloe read the words carefully. At first, she sounded the ch in choir like a ch in chap, but her mother helped her and she was able to say the word properly, choir. Now her mother pointed to the top of the board. Chloe read the words slowly with her mother's help. St. Christopher Cathedral. Here you see another name like yours that begins with CH and makes a K sound like in cot, said Mrs. Sherrill. Then they went to a cafe and Mrs. Sherrill bought some chips for Chloe. I think you know what sound C and H make in chips, said Mrs. Sherrill to her daughter. Yes, Mum, said Chloe. And then at the chemist shop, Chloe said with a smile, Mum, I also know what sound C and H make in the word chemist. They make the K sound as in my name. Chloe now understood what her mother meant by a reading walk. Then they came to a restaurant where a sign at the window said, New chef needed. Chloe looked at the sign and said, Chef begins with CH, but makes a SH sound like the one in sheep. The mother and daughter went back home smiling. The next day, Chloe met Charlie at the school gate. I have something to show you, she said, and pointed to the board at the school gate. What does that say? She asked. Christ Church School of Chandigarh, read Charlie. But I thought C and H always make a ch sound like in chump, said Chloe with a smile. Charlie had to hang his head in shame.